If you've been part of our Seeking Center family for a while, you already know Lizzi Cutler. She's one of our go-to soul sisters, a regular on the show, and truly one of the most gifted healing practitioners we know. You've heard us talk about her quantum energy healings, from past life regressions to actual energy edits, and the ways she can help you shift on every level: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. But Lizzi also has another incredible gift and ability, one that gives me chills every time I witness it. She offers what she calls spirit message readings. You send her a photo of a loved one who passed, and she opens up a channel to bring through their messages, the signs they've been sending you, and what they most want you to know to support your healing right now. Today, you're going to hear about the reading she did for her dear friend Deb. And here's what gets really interesting. Deb will tell you she's more of a skeptic when it comes to this kind of thing. But what came through in her session cracked her heart wide open, shifted her perspective, and began to heal parts of her she didn't even realize needed healing. As you listen, I invite you to imagine what it might feel like to receive direct messages from someone you've loved and lost. How might that change the way you see your own life, your own healing? Whether you've been curious about connecting with someone on the other side, or you're wondering if the signs you're seeing are real, this conversation just might be the nudge you've been waiting for. Hi, Lizzi. Hi, Deb. Hi, Karen.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Lizzi, why don't you talk about this offering? What is it?
So, I am apparently an evidential medium, which I didn't know there was a word for that, but that's what I've been categorized as, which just means when I am doing my mediumship, when I'm channeling someone from the other side, I provide evidence that they're there. And when I was starting this, I've always known that I can read a photo. I thought it was more of a fun party trick and something to do at a bar with my friends. I didn't necessarily know there was true value here, which is what I was exploring. And I had posted about it. And I have to say, so Deb and I have been friends for years, over a decade. And Deb is my number one Instagram support, where everything that I post, she likes, she reads everything, she watches everything. It's the most supportive, loving Instagram friend that I have.
I've
And
even recommended folks to work with Lizzi.
yes. But on Instagram is where you saw it. Like Deb sees everything that I offer. And I had posted about this saying, I'm doing these offerings. If you want me to read a loved one who's passed, let me know. You send me an email, I send you a writing. And Deb was like, I think I'm in. And I was like, holy shit, you're kidding. Really? And so that's where all of this started. Was I was practicing and dipping my toe in all of this, and Deb jumped in.
Deb, I have to ask, why this? If you're so skeptical or been skeptical, even though you've been supportive of what Lizzi has been doing, what made you say yes to this particular type of reading with her?
I think I was just ready for it. And I had just seen Lizzi in person, and we were talking through what she had been doing. And my parents have been gone for 16 and 13 years, respectively. And I'm in a point of life where I'm ready for a change. I'm thinking about switching jobs. We had one of our kids coming to live with us over the summer. There was a lot happening, and I wanted to make sure I was on the right track and doing the right things and getting all the support that I could get and that I needed. And I figured it couldn't hurt.
Totally. Lizzi, what happened when you first received Deb's photo? What was the first thing you noticed?
So what happens is somebody emails me a photo of their loved one and tells me the relationship. Now, I also want everyone listening to know I never had the privilege of meeting Deb's parents. We met as your mom was passing. And so I never met them in person. And I heard about them, but I didn't hear a ton because they weren't around when Deb and I got really close. So someone sends me a photo, and I do my very best to just be a clear channel and not let my own judgment. Like, I'm not looking at the clothes that they're wearing. I'm not looking at the background photos. I'm really just trying to look at the face and the eyes. And for some reason, I don't really understand why or how, I get all this insight on who the person is. And it's a little bit easier for me the less I know about the person I'm reading for, because I don't feel pressure or I'm not so worried. But the fact that Deb was open to it, and Deb has been to group alignments, and I know she's open and supports what I do. It's just not necessarily ever really been her thing. And so there was a little extra, not pressure is the wrong word, but desire to really nail it for Deb. And I love her so much. And she's been one of those friends that through all of my harder moments, she's someone that's, yeah, I got you. It's fine. There's no judgment. There's no shame. There's no anything. So to be able to pay something forward to her felt like a huge opportunity that I didn't want to blow. So it was like I was putting all this pressure on myself, and I love her. And so I really wanted to deliver.
Well, and so when you looked at the photo, was it photo or photos?
I think there were a couple.
There were photos. I think I sent 4 or 5. I know there was one of me and my dad when I was just a kid. There was one of my dad alone. There was one of my mom alone. And I think maybe 2 of me and my mom.
So it doesn't matter to me if someone sends me a single photo or 25 photos. And Robin, you saw this when we did this in person. Even if someone hands me 4 photos, I'm probably just going to look at the first one or one where they're alone and read that. It does help me to know the relationship with who I'm reading for. But I think I just looked at this single photo, and then I use voice dictation in my emails and just kind of speak into it. So as I was speaking and getting to know her parents, like I got choked up. There were a couple times where I had to stop because my voice dictation couldn't understand because I had the cry voice. And part of it was because I know Deb so well and I love you so much. And so to spend, it's choking me up again, to spend time with your parents who love you so much and to feel it, like as someone who is also clairsentient, I feel what I'm channeling. So I was feeling that overwhelming love. And I also love you on my own. So it was like this double whammy of emotion coming through. And I added a lot more detail into those readings because it felt like I might as well throw everything in the kitchen sink at this because it's Deb. And so whatever I can give, I want to give. And I've started trusting it and doing that in future readings and that I'm doing now. But that was really how it felt. I think I did your mom's.
You did my mom first, and then you said that she was like, you got to get her dad. You got to go to her dad.
And her mom, there was a lot coming through. She's very chatty, very bubbly, very loving, very like I was sitting with her. It was like I was sitting at a coffee shop, or it didn't really feel coffee shoppy. It felt like I was sitting in someone's living room. And you know, when their mom like puts their hand on your forearm and is like tapping you so you can't go anywhere. It was like that kind of thing. And I didn't want to go anywhere because there was so much love and fun and joy. And I felt so supported by her mom. It was very interesting.
Just for those who are listening or watching, your readings are a little different. Deb was not sitting in front of you. You actually took the photo, and I think you went for a walk, right? And just started dictating everything that was coming to you. It's a little bit different than some of the ways that other evidential mediums work. Can you explain why and how that works for you?
I can explain it as best I can. But again, to anyone listening, I really want to find someone who will put those stickers on my head and figure out what's happening.
We're working on it, Lizzie. Believe me.
Yeah. I've done them now in person where someone is sitting in front of me, and now I'm offering them on Zoom. So you can either do it on Zoom or I can just do the email. When I'm doing the email reading, I'm either on a walk or when I'm moving, it feels a little bit easier. But it's like I'm suddenly sitting across from the person. When I see a photo or I meet somebody, and this is for someone who's living or passed, it's like I close my eyes and I get this flood of who they are. So it's almost when you're reading a play or a screenplay and it starts with, this is who the character is. And then they say she walks through the door. I'm getting all of that insight of who they are. And it's not so much what was sick and how they were sick and how they passed and that kind of thing. It's like, this is their essence. This is how they showed up in the world. This is what their neuroses were. This is like their, I don't know, Deb, maybe you have a better word than I do.
I think the essence of their being, right? How they lived their life, how they wanted to be seen by others, which is obviously not dictated by things like their disease.
I always say to you, you get to the soul of that person. And I like the word essence. And to Deb, what you just said, who they were in this lifetime. So you're getting, and I think sometimes, Lizzie, what you are also able to do is tap into a journey for them. Like they were trying to solve some karmic something in this lifetime. You may not have the total reference to the other lifetimes, but you're talking about something bigger than even just who they were in the lifetime.
Yeah. It feels very much like it's this incarnation that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Lizzie, one of the things that Deb shared with us was the connection with her dad that was so profound. Can you share a little bit of that? It still tears me up.
So I did these two readings for Deb. I think I read your mom for a while and then I switched over to your dad and I just did them like back to back. And I don't go back and reread what has been written. If I see it, I'll fix it because it's the voice dictation, so it might come up weird. But I try not to reread it because I don't want to start editing it and getting in my head about it. And I just press send. And Deb, you can tell the story about getting on the plane.
Yeah, I was in Chicago for work and I was just boarding my plane back to Denver. And obviously I had my phone in my hand because we're all connected to it. And I saw an email from Lizzie come in. And I don't email with Lizzie very often. We text or we talk. And I opened it and it was the reading. And even walking down the aisle to my row, I started reading it. By the time I got to my row, I was in tears. It was profoundly accurate and meaningful and touching. And by the time I sat down in my seat, the flight attendant had to come by and make sure I was doing okay. And I said, I'm more than okay. I just got a reading from my parents who have passed from a medium from one of my good friends. And it's the most profound thing I've ever seen. Wow, that's cool.
That was not the answer she thought you were going to give.
Yeah, and it was awesome. So just at first glance reading it, it was so true to their being. There were details that Lizzie would never have known that I might not have even known or remembered or recalled. And then you see it like, oh, wow, Lizzie sat and talked to my parents. I haven't talked to them in 16, 13 years, and Lizzie got to be with them. And it was also this huge comforting moment to know that they were still there, to know that they are still part of a world where they are seeing me and passing along messages and meeting my dearest friends, somebody they never got to meet. And now they've gotten to meet Lizzie. And that's also really special to me.
Yeah. It really feels like I'm sitting and hanging out with the person. And I think that's what's evidential about it. Like, it's not so much about me saying this is where they had a birthmark or like, this is the name that they called you. I'm not getting that kind of info, but I'm definitely sitting with them and they're showing me who they were as a human being in this incarnation. And I think for those of us who have lost them, it's a comfort of that still matters. That still exists somewhere. That's still present. And that wasn't lost.
I love actually the word that you just used, that still matters, because they are matter, right? There is actual, we can't see it, but it actually is matter that still exists. And the fact that you can set the intention to tap into it and it's just there, like it shows us what's possible and what's also always around us.
Weren't there a couple of things too that you almost hesitated sharing? Like I think there was something about a candy wrapper or something.
There were a bunch of things where when I was saying it, I was like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't really know what this means. And so I sent the email, Deb's on the plane crying. She texts me and says, I'm hysterical. I'm on the plane, hysterical. And I immediately started crying. And then I think it was the next day that you wrote back and you're like, Lizzie, you don't understand. There were a lot of details in there. And I actually pulled them up. You can go ahead, Deb, but I pulled them up.
Yeah. So something that was really interesting, one of the first things I texted Lizzie, because she had in Talk to Type said, I don't know what this is, but I'm seeing something about a candy, maybe a red hot or a lemon candy that you always think of your mom. And when you're in a store, maybe you always buy them. And I think I texted Lizzie, I couldn't text very much because I was in a state, but I said, you're right about the candy. It wasn't a cinnamon, it was a lifesaver. We'll explain later. And my mom always carried lifesavers on her. And I have a very vivid memory of sitting in a car with my mom and my sister. And my sister was in the back seat and she had a stomach ache. She just wasn't feeling well. And my mom said, oh, honey, do you want a lifesaver? And we're like, no, that's not a thing for what she has. But every time my sister and I are together, if somebody doesn't feel well, if somebody has cancer, if somebody breaks their arm, hey, you want a lifesaver? Hey, who needs a lifesaver? You always carry a bag of lifesavers just in case. So it really was a thing. And obviously, Lizzie would have never known that. And again, it was one of those evidential pieces that as a skeptic, I was really able to latch on to. I think Lizzie has some examples that I can tell one more story. Lizzie wrote relatively early in her reading, I'm seeing your mom as a reader. She didn't get to travel much, but lives through your travels and also uses books as a way to see the world and to see her fantasy. And Lizzie didn't know this, but my mom, before she died, wrote a journal for me, and it was 25, 30 pages. And one of the questions in the journal was, tell me about yourself as a kid, as a child. And it was a simple one paragraph answer that said, I was an avid reader as a child. I loved reading about faraway places, authors like Jack London. I could see Alaska and I could see Russia and really experience the world through books.
I
It
mean,
was wild. I didn't know that she left a journal. I didn't know, like Deb wrote me and was like, Lizzie, there are details in here that my mom wrote in her journal. You're getting these words almost verbatim. It was crazy. And as someone who is newer to this world, I was like, holy crap.
it is.
What was the thing about your dad that sort
Yeah,
of,
you mentioned that one. Lizzie talked about the closeness I had with my dad and that he viewed me as a soulmate, and he did. And my dad didn't have time to write a journal before he died. It was very quick from his diagnosis to when he passed. But he sent me an email, and I hadn't looked at it. Gosh, I probably hadn't looked at it in 14 years. And it was written to me to be read on my wedding day. And it said a number of things, but you are my person, you are my soulmate. And it was pretty remarkable.
It was those things where I felt like with Deb, I didn't really know that she was a skeptic in that way. I didn't know that you've never had a reading for your parents before. So to be able to provide those kind of really tangible, the evidential pieces was so meaningful to me to be able to gift that to you. And for me as a practitioner, knowing, okay, I should keep doing this. There's something here, and maybe I should keep going.
Yeah. And Deb, for you, would you say that it gave you some healing that you didn't even know you needed?
It gave me a number of things. It gave me comfort that I don't know what happens after you die, but I know they're still there. And I know that when I die, I will still be there for the people who I care about. And that was really special and really important.
did it change your perception of your parents' role in your life in the afterlife?
So it's an interesting question because something I texted Lizzie this morning and I said, something from your reading just popped into my life yesterday. And I haven't even told Lizzie this yet. And it goes a little bit to your question, Karen, about whether it's changed my perception of my parents, not so much in the afterlife, but there are things that I learned from my parents that I didn't know I learned from my parents until literally now. And I was in a meeting at work yesterday, and we were doing everybody's least favorite icebreaker thing. And the question was, how has your past impacted how you are in your professional life today? What brought you to the skill set that you have and how you do your job? And I generally answer that question by saying, I was an attorney, I practiced law. What I got the most out of my practice was developing younger attorneys, mentoring them, coaching them, making sure the ladder didn't get pulled up behind me, keeping it down for them. And I was thinking about my answer and I hadn't put it together, but Lizzie had written in her dictation, I see your dad as a very good businessman, but more than that, he was viewed by others as kind. And I can see what a mentor he was to others, bringing them with him. And I didn't get to see my dad in business very much, but to know that somehow inherently I got that from him really clicked something in my head. And it was really special to think about that.
I think it's just when I was reading Deb's mom and then her dad and doing them back to back. And I've worried about doing them back to back because her mom was still present when I was reading for her dad. There was a lot of, don't forget to tell her this, and nudging, and like Jewish Yenta mom, don't, you got to tell her this thing, and don't forget to show her this, and the loviness of it. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to separate the two, but feeling this really strong, nurturing sense from her mom, and then feeling this other, like Deb's dad felt in awe of Deb and felt this sense of, look at this woman that came from me. And he kept showing me how the smarter Deb got and the older she got, the more he upped his game to make sure he could help her. And that he said to me, she's the reason that I got as far as I did, because I wanted to make sure I learned more so I could teach her more. And I wanted her to be proud of me. And it really was this like infinity loop between the two of them. And that was where the soulmate thing came from, was like, she was my soulmate. And Deb's mom would chime in and say, I knew all of that. I wasn't jealous of it. I loved what they had. I knew that they had some special connection that like I loved watching from afar. And so being able to provide those kind of details of, that's not done. Our soulmate not being in this 3D, Robin, you know this, like Karen, you know this, you guys experience this. And I feel this way with my Aunt Linda, just because they're not in the physical form anymore, the relationship isn't over. And I think I'm hoping that for Deb with this, I'm assuming you'll go back and read that reading once or twice more and get other details from it. But I think part of what is so beneficial from this work is to be able to see the relationship isn't over. Tap into it. I'm only tapping into it because you're letting me.
And I was going to ask, now that you have that, and now that you have that understanding, are you tapping into it? Are you able to talk to them in a way that maybe you hadn't even a year ago, even though it's been so long?
Yeah, I talk to them a decent amount. I always have. And I think it's different now. I really believe they can hear me. And I should have said earlier, I love that Lizzi read them together. So I know they're together.
Yeah. And they were still like so loving and so fun. And it's not like, I think that when we picture being on the other side, we picture, I picture like Whoopi Goldberg channeling Patrick Swayze in Ghost, right? Like I picture some version of it that's like distorted or something that's different. And so to feel, I've heard Deb tell a couple stories about her mom, but I was like, no, like in the reading, I was like, if I ever walked in somewhere alone, she's the person I want there. She's the person I want to sit next to. And Deb was like, oh yeah, my mom would have loved you. Like my mom would have made you her best friend. We would have had dinner every time she came to town. Like she loved everybody. She took everybody in. So to feel that their essence is still so present, I think there's this comfort of, okay, I'm not just making it up to make myself feel better.
That's right. Yeah, I think for so many of us, when we lose, it doesn't matter who it is or when it is or how much time we know before they leave, that the level of grief is so profound that I think we tend to dim our emotions down so we don't have to feel it. Like it's easier to just put the picture on the mantle or whatever, just to keep them around enough, but not feel the feels, not feel their essence, not really remember that deep love that we had for them, because it's hard. Because it reinforces the fact that they aren't there every day. But I think, Lizzi, what you've been able to do is reopen that door for Deb. Now, like she's ready for it. She's ready to re-experience that. She's ready to see their imprint and impact in her life, leaving the legacy that they left behind. And now she can really embrace that in a totally different way. Because, wow, they, like you said, they really are still around and the essence, the source of who they always were. I love that.
I used to think that when they went to the other side, they just became, of course, I think they become part of oneness and they're no longer restricted by the physical. But I think I also thought that they would lose their shtick.
Yeah.
Some of that like spiciness. And so to feel that, and frankly, when I looked at pictures, like I thought I was just making it up. I thought, this is what everybody sees, and I'm just creating a story the way we would all play a game.
I thought she was too.
Which is what a normal person with a brain and a skeptic would think, right? You're reading their t-shirt or you're reading, like, what did you think, Deb?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I thought. I have seen readings happen on TV, whether it's reality TV or a medium show or whatever. And I always thought that the medium was able to give enough information that the recipient could fill in the details and feel like the reading was about their person and nothing overly specific, but I'm seeing this. Oh, yeah, that was my grandfather doing this. And that's what I thought happened. And I was wrong.
Yeah, and I think what is so important to Karen and I is finding people who are really authentic at what they do. And clearly Lizzie is, and not just authentic, they're super talented in terms of translating what they are seeing and feeling and all the things. And not everybody can do that. And I think there are people out there who are doing what you just said. And that makes me so upset. And I can speak to it because I can do it too. And maybe not to the level that Lizzie can do it, but I see and feel and able to translate certain aspects. And I don't know about those other people if they're just bad actors in the sense of not being good people. And that makes me so sad because this is such a healing
It is.
resource.
It takes courage to do what Lizzie does, especially with good friends, right? When you want to just give them the best possible experience. One of the things I was just thinking as you guys were talking is there is such a value, Lizzie, in this ability to be able to deliver it the way you are in an email, dictating like literally what comes to you and putting it on a piece of paper, especially for someone who's not used to an experience like this, because as we all know, or I can attest to, when you do a live reading with a spiritual medium, it can be an avalanche of information that you just can't process because it's almost like too much coming at you at once. Whereas I think, Deb, with you, you had an opportunity to just literally absorb and digest and decipher for yourself what those messages were.
I agree, Karen. And I don't know if Lizzie's going to want me to tell this story, but being a recovered skeptic, I still read all of Lizzie's posts and what she is posting about her work. And over the weekend, Lizzie posted about a reading she had done for someone, and that person had responded, "You got it right for this person, and you're way off base over here." And I know Lizzie well enough to know that she took that really personally. And I felt so strongly the need to respond in a public forum. That's not right or wrong. You didn't get it right or wrong. They don't know what the information means. You might not know what the information means, but it's not wrong. There is no wrong. You are doing the work, and that requires more processing sometimes. So to you, Lizzie, I say keep trusting what you do. It's so important.
Isn't she just the best friend?
Thank you. Not everybody even gets that, Deb. So the fact that you can say that, because I wholeheartedly agree. And I want to say to you, Lizzie, as well, to what you were saying before, Deb, about how you can watch a medium show and we can make judgments about how that reading is going. What's so interesting also about the way that Lizzie works and the fact that she will put it all in an email. And the real skeptics out there, they can say whatever they want in terms of how Lizzie came up with that information. But in my opinion, the fact that you will put that in an email and that I know you're not looking shit up, you're just literally channeling something and you're getting such specificity and you're not looking for the person's reaction, where there are people who do play off of that. Right? Is this making sense? Does that mean you're doing it and then you're saying, here it is. And then call me if you want to talk. You know what I mean? I'm just saying someone could book that time with you to do that. My point is that's brave. It really is.
And it is scary. And like I've thought, because actually with that reading, I read for this person's mom and dad. And she had said dad was spot on, mom was like totally off. Try again. And I was like, I will try again, but I need a few days because I was so in my head about shit, I really fucked that up. And another friend of mine, Lisa Nitzkin, was like, the dad might have still been talking to you. Like you didn't have enough time in between. It might have been him talking. I was like, all right, maybe. But like I read Deb's back to back and I did 5 others back to back and they were all spot on. So what happened? And then I was like, maybe I just got one wrong. I'm okay.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And maybe that's just not how she saw her mom.
And I think that's the other aspect that Deb, you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
there might be truth to it and someone just doesn't see it or doesn't want to see it.
That's
Right.
right.
And I wasn't going to fight that fight. And I really just said, do you want me to refund you the money or reread it? And she was like, you can just refund me. And I was like, no problem. I do feel like it's my responsibility. There was this thing in the theater world that got passed around. I can't remember who said it now, but she was like, it's not your job to analyze your art. It's your job to put your art out there. Let everybody figure out if they want to come and experience it or not. And that's how I feel about this. Am I going to get 100% right? No. But if I get 90% or 85%, like if that helps you, great.
Exactly. It's worth trying.
Anything else, Deb, that you want to share that might help someone who is thinking about an experience like this, who would love to try it, but also might be a skeptic?
I say dive in, get in the pool, get a tan, and just give it a try. I think it can be meaningful, it can be healing, it can be helpful, it can be warming. When I read those words, it feels like I'm getting a hug, and everyone deserves that.
Deb, did you send it to your sister? Is my first question. And my second question is, did you have your husband read it as like a way for other people to get to know them?
Yes, I sent it to my sister, and she was blown away by it as well. I asked her if she wanted to read it, and she said, send it to my email with this subject line, because she didn't want to read it until she was ready. And she
Yes.
needed to be in a place, in a chair where she could just focus on it. And she did,
Not sitting on a plane.
not sitting on a plane, getting tissues from the flight attendant. Can I get you a cocktail? What do you need? And then I didn't share it with my husband, and I'm not sure why I didn't. I think to me right now, it still feels really personal, and I want to hold on to it as close and tight as I can. I have shared snippets of it, literal sentences of it, with other close family members who would resonate with it. When you said, Lizzie, she makes me feel comfortable. If I'm ever in a situation, I want her in the room with me. I sent that to one of my cousins who had that relationship with my mom's best friend, who I refer to as my aunt and now my second mom. I sent her the part about my mom loving the relationships that she had with her female friends. And that is something that has really resonated with me. I am women first at all times. I bring groups of women together in multiple cities, multiple times a year. I hold a women's brunch. I have a women's birthday party. I have a women's New York Times text thread where we just do the games all day, every day. It really is about having those friendships. And I mentioned earlier that my stepdaughter was living with us this summer, and I got a lot of my close friends one at a time to come to a dinner with us or go have a happy hour, because it's really important to me that I model those female relationships for her, so she knows how important those are moving forward in her life.
Just the coolest.
And think about how all of this was really resurfaced in your life because of this reading. And it had been so long since you'd really had that clear channel.
It was as if you were ready to receive that information in a way that you hadn't been before.
And by the way, I've asked a couple other friends if they've let their partners or spouses read the reading that I send them. And most of them have said no, because they feel like eventually I will. But it feels like this like connection I just had with my parent again. And I just want it like as cocooned as possible. And maybe down the road I will. Like it's not like a secret thing. It just, to them, it has felt like I'm in this little nook with them and I'm not ready to open that up yet. I want to savor this as long as I can, which like it feels so amazing to me to be able to provide.
And I would say, just to piggyback off of that, you also want to make sure it feels really safe to do that because it's so sacred. You're not looking for anyone to poke holes in anything, even though you know they're not there. If you go to another skeptic,
Yeah.
they may want to start questioning everything. I know because I've experienced that in other areas in the spiritual world. I didn't ask for your opinion. Like, you have to make sure you're ready.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. So beautiful. I also want to know if there's been any signs or synchronicities that have come up for you, Deb?
I send Lizzie every time I see 1111 come up on my phone. And I think that's for a lot of people. They look for that, and I see it 3, 4 times a week. And I'll just snap a photo, know that it's for me. And I think that's really special too.
I try to get specific. So when I'm doing the reading, in pretty much everything that I do, all of my sessions, I'm really asking myself, what would I want from this session? And then I try to give that. So if somebody were reading for me, I'd want evidence that they were actually reading my loved one or whoever I'm giving them a picture of. And then I would want to know, with someone who's passed, what are the messages they have for me? What are the signs they're sending me? And what do those signs mean? So in each reading, I'm really trying to get as specific as I can about what is the specific sign and what does this mean when she sees it? So I try to have it not just be like, oh, you're going to see a bird. Like, all right, what does it mean when I see that specific bird? Me and my tangible things.
I love that. One of the things that Lizzie shared with me, speaking of birds, when she read my dad, and you may not remember this, Lizzie, was that I was going to see really unique birds. Like I would know, and that would mean something very specific. And I have seen some crazy looking birds that I'm like, okay, I got you. Because cardinal is definitely one of his things, but it was not about that. So it's that kind of specificity that we're talking about.
Just so everybody knows, this is not like a 6-page email either. It's not short, but it's a consolidated message. And so the fact that there's so much in there blows my mind.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody knows me, like I am a zero fluff. I'm not going to repeat it 18 times. I want to get to the point and get on with our lives. So I try to be very concise.
Just really quickly, have there been any other messages? I'm just thinking about people who might be listening who may have lost a loved one tragically in some way and might just be nervous about asking you for a reading for them. Back to where Deb was, like, I really am not sure exactly where they are and where they are now, what they're feeling. What would you say to them about that?
In general, I think if you're drawn to something and it feels like a yes, it feels like more a yes than a no, then lean in. If it still feels, I don't want to do this, don't do it. There's no reason to force it. I think had Deb not been ready, it would have been hard to read and hard to receive. And so I am by no means here to force anybody into anything that they're not ready for. But I will say, I think there's a lot of comfort that can be provided in knowing that they're not in pain. Because for so many of us, the end and the most recent memory we have is so painful, and so we're watching them in pain. There's so much discomfort around it that to have that, the most recent memory be replaced with, this is the thing I used to give you shit for. This is the thing we used to joke about. I'm still here. I'm still in my good space, can be so liberating. And so I think that's the why you might want to do this, is to be free from that last experience.
And I would say also, just speaking for people who lose loved ones suddenly, you may also get some other kinds of answers too, like more about their soul journey, I would say, which can help explain why they may have left suddenly.
Robin sent me a picture of her dad, who I've heard so much about in our friendship. Like, Bob is very much a part of the Seeking Center journey. And so he's present in a lot of it. And so when you sent me that picture, I was like, oh shit, what kind of info am I going to get that I'm not making up? How do I know I'm not just calling on something that you've told me about? And by the way, on the spirit of, is she making it up? Is she looking them up? I don't want the person's name. I like their first name just so I can stop saying she's saying and she feels, but I just want the first name and your relationship with them. I want to know that I can't possibly be looking this up. So for Robin, because I knew so much about Bob, when I was reading it, it was so interesting how he was showing me a very specific subject. And it was like he was saying, there's this other piece that she hasn't looked at that I want her to look at this. It wasn't so overarching about who he was. It was like a very specific part of your life with him.
That's right.
That I thought was so interesting. So again, to the skeptics, like, they're going to give me the info that you need to receive in that moment. Deb needed to know they exist. So they showed me the overarching rainbow of who they were. And with other people, like my sisters asked me to read people that I knew when they were here. I was like, I don't know how to read him. Like, I knew him. I don't know how to do that. So there are certain people where I'll say, I can't. I don't know what to do with that. But even when I've heard stories, I'm getting something so specific and detailed that I wouldn't have known that.
That's right. That's a really good one. I'm glad that came up. All of this is information and will elicit a feeling for you that I think really helps you move forward in life with more love. I love the word you said too, comfort and confidence, honestly.
Yeah, and it's one of these experiences too that I feel if you've never had another spiritual type of experience, it's one that just allows you to take that foot in the door of possibility. And I think we all are yearning for that, and especially with someone that we've lost. So it's such a great opportunity to just try it on and see how it feels. So thank you for doing it, Lizzie.
I don't want to steal the last word here, but I also think, at least for me, and I think for many, it can help lessen the fear of death for yourself, for your friends, and for your family, because you know there's more to come.
I'm so glad you said that because it's something that I actually talk about with a lot of people. I think that is the gift of this type of communication, of this type of reading, because I think the one thing that's universal for all of us, we're going to die. And we know others in our lives are too. And it really does. I so love that for you, of all people, as we talked about, someone who really came in skeptical, to walk away with that is even a bigger gift.
That's so true.
So to find out more about working with Lizzi, whether it's this offering or any of her other magical offerings, check out LizziCutler.com. That's LizziCutler.com. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Thank you.